Thank you for joining me today on Paint a Beautiful Picture. Today we're going to be talking about teaching your child a work ethic, nurturing that, honestly, love of work, but definitely that cooperative spirit about working in the home that will later transfer to the understanding of what work is outside of the home. Kids play. Of course, that's their life. That's what they're supposed to do. But much of their life in their play is preparation for work, because oftentimes little boys will play firemen, or they'll play army, or they'll play trucks. Little girls will play house, they'll play school, they'll play mommy. And so they are preparing for work, they just don't know it. When they're very tiny, I mean, under 5, believe it or not, you might say, well, they don't need to be doing any work. Well, I would like to differ with you, and here's why. If a child thinks of work as awful and drudgery, and I hate this, and why do I have to do this? Well, yeah, then it's going to be like a bummer trying to get that child to work. However, if work is just a natural part of what goes on in your house, in other words, in the morning you pick things up, and after breakfast you do the dishes, and on whatever day, Monday was always my laundry day, you're doing the laundry, and then you're folding up the clothes, and you're putting things away, and you're hanging certain things up on hangers. You're just going through that process while you're working, and you talk to your child, and you have your child alongside, and you have a good attitude, and they find out that work is part of life and work can be fun. When I was doing laundry, I would let my kids fold the washcloths. I believe really and truly, even when they were 2 and 3, they were already folding washcloths. Then they would fold dish towels. After a while, I would give them their own underclothes and teach them how to fold clothes and t-shirts and socks. And I don't bunch socks together because it wears out the tops of them, and I hate that feeling when my socks keep falling down around my ankles, so I just fold socks. But my kids got to do that when they were really small. Or I'd give them a whole basket full of socks, and they'd pull out the matches, so it helps them start to develop a sense of color and texture and length, size. Yeah, all of those things are work, but not necessarily work they noticed at work, or work that we did cooperatively when we were all sitting there together. And it was totally fun. When they were a little bit older than that, all their clothes were folded. I mean, like 4 and 5, not ancient. I put all their clothes on the ends of their beds, and they had to put those clothes away. I didn't put their clothes away. In their closet, it was low enough that they could reach it. I would lay out their permanent press clothes, and they would put them up on the hanger, like their Sunday shirts or pants, and they would hang them up in the closet. They worked. They didn't see it as work, I don't think. They didn't recognize it as training, but that's exactly what that was. And so you want to nurture a lot of skills in your child. One of those things is taking care of their clothes and taking care of their toys and even self care. So when it comes to their room or wherever their play area is, and they've been playing hard, that means there are dozens, if not hundreds, of things all over the crate, all over the place. At the end, you need to allow them 10 minutes. Don't say, we got to go right now, get this picked up. That's not realistic. Don't do that to them. So you got 10 minutes and we're going to be leaving, and we're not going until this space is picked up. So when they're little kids, 18 to 24 months, you are helping them pick up. If you literally have to go to them and take their hands and pick something up and put it on the shelf because they're kind of resistant and they don't really want to pick up. By the time they're 2.5 or 3, this is just going to be something they know. I pick up. They're going to know where things go and how they go. And so you're teaching your child the value of a work ethic, and they don't even know it. By the time they're, I'd say 5, they're certainly capable of taking a bath. It doesn't mean you're not in and out of there, or even, sitting in there near them. But you don't have to scrub them down unless they were wallowing in a mud puddle and they're filthy. But in general, you don't have to scrub them down. They're more than capable of taking care of themselves and washing up, especially if you've taught them how to do it properly. When they get out, if as long as they're capable of dressing themselves, let them dress themselves. Let them brush their own teeth. You are teaching them the value and the work part of self-care. They don't have to know what that is, but you do. And you definitely need to teach them work within the house that contributes to the well-being of the household. whether that means they dry the dishes after dinner or whether that means they put away pots and pans, because in most households, pots and pans are lower. Once they're old enough and they can reach the silverware drawer, they can take that silverware portion from the dishwasher and put those silverware away in the right place. They need to have something in which they can participate. Some kids can run the vacuum. I had a son who loved to vacuum. He started vacuuming really young. He wasn't even as tall as the vacuum cleaner, but he would vacuum. He really liked it. A child can sweep the floor after dinner. I've never seen a household where something didn't get on the floor after dinner. And so, even when they're very small and they don't do it as well as you might like, they're able to do it. They can straighten up their bed. In the mornings, they may not be capable yet of fully making a bed and doing a sheet corner, but they can certainly pull up the covers and straighten out the bedspread. They're able to do those kinds of things. Anything they are able to do, they should do. I'm going to go in the kitchen for a minute because it's one of my favorite places, and both of my sons really loved working in the kitchen. I would have a stool and a chair because I didn't have two stools. So my one son would stand on the stool and the other one would stand on the chair. We would measure all the things. They would measure the sugar, measure the flour. They knew how many parts of the butter stick were tablespoons of butter, how much was a half a cup. They knew those things when they were really small because we cooked together all the time. They got used to looking at a Pyrex glass measuring cup where you put in milk, or if you're going to sour the milk, you put in a tablespoon of vinegar. They were always there. They didn't perceive of that as work. They worked with me in the kitchen so very much. They would butter the pan if we were going to make cake or bread. They would very often do things like put all the cupcake papers into the cupcake muffin pans. They would grease the cookie sheets. They just helped constantly in the kitchen. They would stir gravy or stir spaghetti sauce. They were just always with me in the kitchen. They didn't perceive of that as work. And yet we all know, moms definitely, or dads who cook, that it is work to cook. And yet they just participated in that. It didn't seem like anything boring or horrible. You need to find out what kind of work your child likes. If you have 10 tasks that are possible for someone to help you with in the house, so we'll say folding the laundry, putting the laundry into everybody's room at the end of the bed, sweeping the floor after dinner, doing the dishes, helping with dinner preparation, taking out the trash, sweeping the floor in the dining room, because oh my word, that's different than the kitchen, or even getting down and cleaning up spills or spots on the floor, because I'm in the middle of cooking and I don't have time for this right now, but nobody needs to trip, so I need someone to clean this up. Just these sorts of clean out the bathtub. Oh boy, I never met anybody yet who volunteered for that one. Just say, clean out the bathroom sink. There are just so many possibilities. And you say, all right, I have all of these things which need to get done. And we'll say you have 3 kids. I need you to pick 3 of these things. I'm not going to make you do it. So you can pick one, you can pick one, you can. We're going to go down the list till all of these chores get taken care of, because everybody here needs to participate in helping everyone else's life go smoothly. Your child starts to develop an understanding that in life, there are just some tasks that have to happen. And all of us need to work cooperatively together within a family unit so that everything gets done. I will say this, if you are a parent who doesn't work and you grouse all the time about your housework or about the things that need to get done, don't expect your child to jump up and down and be real enthusiastic about work. You have to start to develop a better attitude about your work because it needs to be done. You can either do it as a grumpy soul or with a great attitude. Well, why would you mess up everybody's day? Learn to do it with a good attitude. And honestly, you can admit to your kids, I'm tired. Like, this is a rough day. I know today we usually do the laundry, but I don't feel very well. I have a headache. I didn't really sleep great last night. We're not going to do laundry today. We're going to be off of schedule. Because you know what? Even in the real world, people get to take sick days. It's really okay. Dad, after you work all day, or heaven forbid, the single moms, I know this one so well. I worked all day, and now I've got to come home and I've got to rake leaves up in the yard and I've got to cut the grass. There's just so much work to do in real life. Your kids need to know and understand this, and they need to help. I can honestly say my kids would rake leaves with me, My kids were not that old, and they were helping me cut the grass. And I didn't have a garden much of the time when they were younger, but when they were older, I did, and they would help me with that. There are a lot of tasks, and so you find out what they like. I'm not saying they always get to do what they like, because guess what? At my job, I have done a lot of things I didn't like. They've got to get used to that too. But you try to give them the opportunity for work to be fun, because you know what? It is. Now, let me tell you this. There does need to be balance. A person who works and works and works and works and they never play and they never relax and they never have fun, they're a very out of balance person. Whether they're just high tension, high stress, go, 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 or whether they're constantly tired and so consumed about getting a hold of money that they don't have any value for playing around and hanging out with people they love. So you want your child to understand, yes, life has a lot of work in it, but there has to be balance. So every single day, even though we had work to do, we would do the work, sometimes a couple hours worth of work, but then we would always play. I was really earnestly trying to teach my sons a balance of life. Often, as an adult, you don't get to play nearly as much as you have to work. It's true. So we might work 3 hours in the morning and play for an hour or an hour and a half. I did really try earnestly to keep that balance going. I've described to you before when I worked and I was doing things like crocheting or painting or doing certain kinds of crafts, my sons were still in the room with me and they got to play. And we would talk and we would have a lot of interaction time. But sometimes while they were playing, I was still working because, that's really how it goes. Even among people that are workmates, I guess I'll use that language, fellow employees, sometimes you're busy on a project and someone else has a downtime. And so work is not equilateral all the time. I wanted my sons to understand that. I even did that with them, and it wasn't always pretty. They didn't really understand what I was doing. I would sometimes assign one of my sons a much more difficult task that was going to take a whole lot more time, that was labor intensive. They would sometimes literally have to go to their brother and say, "Would you help me with this?" Because they didn't have an assigned task. They were learning to ask for help about, "I've got this overwhelming task and you could help me because you're not busy right now." It's all about nurturing that attitude of work can be really fun, work can be enjoyable. Sometimes work is not that fun and it still needs to be done. In working, there is a cooperative spirit, and sometimes you do have to work alone, but there needs to be a balance with work and play. So when it's time to play, play hard, honey. Like I'm really all about that. Uh, and and honestly, your child will find out that there are elements of work that are truly enjoyable and really rewarding. I can say that I have one son I think is a lot harder worker than one of my other ones, though they got the same level of training. One of my sons has real intense periods of work and then not so much for a while, and my other one has more of a consistent, keep going, day after day after day after day level of work. But they are both really good workers. I want you to know that you're training your child for so many things. Nurturing an attitude of a desire to work, a willingness to work, a sense of what work does, why work is important, how work is valuable to others around you, and even in the smooth maintenance and running of a household, there's a lot of work involved, and when everyone pitches in, then it's a whole lot better. And that balance between work and playtime. So I want to ask you a question today. Do you like to work? If you really hate your job, look for another one. I'm not kidding. Life is way too short to be miserable every single day for hours and hours. I'm really a big proponent of that. Don't keep doing something you just hate. There's plenty of work available. Don't stick with the job you despise. I'm not even kidding about that. But learn to really like your work, see the value of your work, be an active worker, be a great asset to the people that you work for and with. You will find a lot more joy and fulfillment in your work. Work isn't meant to be a misery. It really should be something that you enjoy, and balance it out with your play. So, are you a good worker? And how are you doing at getting your child to work alongside of you? I will say that some parents, because the kid complains so much, they just do everything, even the things they've assigned their child to do, rather than fight with them. have to tell you, I think it's one of the biggest mistakes that a parent can make because your kid is going to learn to be lazy. They're going to learn to be manipulative and get someone else to do their work. And that's going to keep up throughout their lifetime. So if you do that, if you're prone to do that, get a hold of yourself, cut that out, have your kid work because it is part of life and you need to nurture in them both a desire and an understanding of why it's important to work. If you have questions or comments, please leave them for me. If you felt like this video was of value to you, feel free to share it with a friend. Thank you so much for joining me today on Paint a Beautiful Picture. You may find additional information on our paintabeautifulpicture.com website. Additionally, you may watch me on Rumble, and you may also listen to a podcast on Buzzsprout or Spreaker, all under the name Paint a Beautiful Picture. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. You may subscribe, and if you are interested in receiving notifications, please hit the notifications button.